Got a mic in the break room, cardboard box front row seat. Whiskers twitch, we tune the dial, tiny paws on the beat. Beans in a paper cup, names on a paper list. Every stray got a story and every scratch means this. Come on in, take a listen, hear that purr in the air. They've been waiting all week to tell you what they see there. It's the Shelly Cats Podcast. Yeah, the Shelly Cats Podcast. It's the Shelly Cats Podcast. Hurry it out, hurry it out. They got paws on the answers and a meow that won't quit. It's the Shelly Cats Podcast. Hurry it out, hurry it out.
Hello there, cat people. Dan the Catman here. We're on a break. We are between seasons. It's already late July. And I thought since we haven't had an episode in a little while, and we're not planning season 5 until later this year, I thought it would be a cool idea to do a best of season 4 episode. By the way, you like my beard? So for those of you listening, I have a ever-thickening beard, and I like it. But that's not why we're here. I thought it would be a very cool idea to relive, re-listen, rewatch some of the best moments from season 4. And I'm very proud of all the work that we did, that Michelle did, that Stephen did while he was with us, and of course, our fabulous editor, Jake. Hi, Jake. I know Jake is going to work on this. Could you get the camera to say yes? So without further ado, here are some amazing moments from season 4 of the Shelter Cats podcast. And we will see you soon for season 5.
How did My Cat from Hell come about?
I had just moved to LA. This was back in, I think, '07. And I had moved here and I just was doing my thing. I was, making as many inroads as I could, try to get jobs, going to people's houses and working with their cats, teaching in classes or whatever. And I don't know, it was maybe a month after I moved here. And I was with a friend who, I mean, everybody and their, sister-in-law works in the industry here. So there's always eyes on you somewhere. And I was in LA at a PetSmart, I think, and talking to the adoption group who was there. And I started getting kind of animated the way I am now, but I was like moving around and demonstrating things and whatever. And then this little crowd formed around us as we were doing it. And then the friend I was with was like, I always think of like Fred Flintstone when he had like the gambling addiction and all of a sudden he'd be like, bet, like this. That's the way it was.
That's
He was
funny.
like, we have a TV show here. And I realize now how lucky I was. I didn't really do much and kept getting introduced to other people. And within 6 months, we had a deal. And I literally, like now, knowing how hard people have to work to get things off the ground, I realized how intensely lucky I was. But that said, Animal Planet gave us 3 episodes to, sink or swim. And so I had to like call in every cat person, using the old Dixie cup and a string method, like just getting in touch with everybody to try to get us a second season, which we got. But yeah, no, I was very lucky.
What year was that, Jackson? When did it first air?
I believe the first episode was in 11. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because I think Cat Daddy came out in 12. So that makes sense. That's about when it would have been.
Yeah, I do. I feel like too, it also satisfied a niche, like what you were talking about earlier, that there was no real, not significant amounts anyway, but no real information out there for cat owners.
Right.
There's very little. I mean, so much about dogs for decades, generations even about dogs, and so little about cats that
Yeah.
I think your show came along at the right time for that.
Well, here's the thing. It's funny because network-wise, they assumed that nobody wanted it, because
Yeah.
it happened yet, and we even the first 2 seasons we couldn't find sponsors. I think the only
Right.
sponsor we had the first season was like Swiffer.
I think I remember that.
Didn't have anything to do with it, but like it was so interesting and which is why they picked the name My Cat from Hell. I had nothing to do with that one. Um, I almost had dropped dead the day they told me that's what it was going to be. Um, but they said we wanted so that people who actually don't give a rip about cats or who actually don't like them will still be flicking around the channels and go, "Oh, I got to watch a show like that." You know, whatever
Yeah.
the name is, I got to watch that. And it absolutely actually worked, you know.
Yeah.
What would you have called it if it was up to you?
Oh, I was just going to call it Cat Daddy. Just that it was going to be called Cat Daddy. And it was, and we had come up with, I mean, as long as I stayed away from Cat Whisperer and something like My Cat from Hell, I was fine. I didn't have, my bar was pretty low. I mean, I swear to you, when they said the name, I, I started to hyperventilate, you know? I was like, oh my God, my shelter pass is going to be completely revoked. Like, I'm not going to every step of
What, where was day one? Was it like you were all at the table having dinner and you said, what do we how what would you remember like the day one of when
Right.
you decided to go down this road?
So there was another group that was doing that had posted on Facebook about a holiday drive. They were called Kids Adopt a Shelter. And they, they were doing that. And we were looking at that and, we were like, "Oh, we could help that way." And so for our first year, we were, we did, oh my gosh, I think it was Gettable, Long Island Pit Stop, and Tough
Tough
Tales.
Tales, yeah.
I think, and A New Beginning. I think those
Yeah.
were our first through them. Like we knew about the rescues, so we got to choose who we wanted to help. And we're like, oh, this is great. And we raised a lot of supplies and stuff, and we realized, we can do this on our own.
Mm.
And like we said, incorporate as a 501(c)(3) and something for our own family to do. So we can, so after that first year that we did it, after hearing about holiday drives, and then we were hearing more different holiday drives, different organizations doing that. And we're like, hey, this is something that we could do as a family. And so we, founded Rescue Advocates
Mm.
of Long Island. I'm trying to think how we came up with the name.
I was gonna say I have a vivid memory
Oh,
of
okay.
like I don't remember exactly like coming up with the idea, but I have a vivid memory of us coming up with the name. I don't know where we were driving, but we were in the car and
Okay.
we were just all like throwing out ideas. But I remember when we got Rescue Advocates of LI or Raleigh. And I loved the name. And so that's just one thing that I was like, I totally can like picture it. I remember exactly when we got the name.
And it had a good acronym with the Raleigh
Yes,
thing,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah.
So, because we were
Yeah.
thinking, because we're not our own, obviously we're not our own rescue where we take in dogs, cats ourselves, but we're rescue advocates. We support rescues, we support the shelters.
Yeah.
So yeah, and of course, obviously the Long Island part, but yeah, and then we like the RALI, Raleigh
Yeah.
acronym there. So that's how we did hear about it when Kids Adopt a Shelter was doing it, and we participated in it for that first year and came up with our own rescues and shelters that we were going to help. And then we took it from there. We're like, we can make this our own, um, and helping the rescues and shelters that we wanted to.
The two biggest problems with fountains and how your fountain addresses those two problems. One is cleaning, and the other is noise. And cleaning is a big issue because a lot of fountains have all these like nooks and crannies, and you're trying to get in there with brushes, and all the green, algae starts to collect. And I tried lots of different fountains, and I'm sitting there in the kitchen trying to clean them. It drives me crazy. This fountain has no nooks and crannies. It's just a beautiful, heavy bowl that with a completely smooth, interior surface, and the couple parts that it has, the dome and the tube that goes through it, also not only are they completely smooth, you also supply brushes for them to actually get into that tube in a really lovely way. So I discovered that it's super cleanable, dishwasher safe. Yeah, it's almost as if I own part of the company, like I'm touting it, right? Um, and it's also super quiet. So it addressed all of my concerns and it lets you see the water. So if the water starts to look dirty, you can at least see it.
Yeah, I think that's a huge key. Like I said, that's that's really the only advantage of a plastic fountain is that they can be made clear, which you kind of you get with glass without any of the downside. But yeah, I think that's also one of the big advantages of glass is that I'm pretty sure it's the only one you can really properly put into the dishwasher. I mean, you can put stainless steel in the dishwasher, but a lot of times they have like the plastic bits integrated, so like the pump, the holder for the pump and the clip. So you really can't put it in the dishwasher. And plastic is really not a good idea to put in the dishwasher for a variety of reasons, including it absorbing the smell, which is like the cat won't drink out of it because they have very sensitive noses, and it can also deform from the heat. So yeah, the cool thing about glass is that pretty much all the parts of the dishwasher safe. So the pumps on suction cups, you just comes right out, everything goes in the dishwasher. And if you don't want to use the dishwasher, like I personally don't, I just kind of just wash it by hand. It's just really quick. Yeah, like you said,
So
there are
easy.
no nooks and crannies. It's all smooth. There's really nowhere that's hard to reach. The only tricky part is the pump. Um, but that's kind of the case for all fountains, right? There's really like you need a pump. And that's a problem that's not been solved.
I
Yeah,
thought it
so
was a pretty easy pump to clean, actually. I've cleaned a bunch of pumps.
yeah, for
And
sure.
I thought it was an easy pump.
That is
It's
the
it's
biggest issue is the pump. The pumps will stop working even after you clean it. Literally, before we did this recording, we're recording this on a Thursday. Thursday is my night. Every Thursday, I wash out my fountains. I have six of them. They're various plastic fountains. And every Thursday, I wash them out because, like I said, half of them use them to rinse their paws, to rinse their ass. I mean, I don't know what half of some of them, my one cat will walk out of his way because he prefers the fountain I have in my office and recording studio. So he'll walk past other fountains to go to this specific fountain, even though it's exactly like the other fountains that he just walked past. I don't understand it. Maybe Stephen could explain that one. And it looks like animal rescue has also gone hand in hand with your journey as a vet. So can you tell us some about
Sure.
that?
So as a new grad, I went primarily into just small animal general practice. And I did that for probably the first 10 years. Yeah, 10 years of practice. I was exclusively small animal. And then, and this can lead into how I met Stephen. When I was working in Jacksonville, Florida, I was a relief veterinarian, and so I was working for a bunch of different practices, and there was a emergency shelter that was being run by the ASPCA. They had confiscated about 900 cats from a hoarding facility.
900?
900 cats.
Oh my God.
And so they put those cats up in a temporary shelter in Jacksonville, Florida. And that's where I was living at the time. And so they needed vets to come and help them with all those cats. And so that was my introduction to shelter medicine. And so it wasn't a traditional shelter, it was an emergency shelter. So it was only meant to be temporary while the cats were, part of a court case. So they didn't have custody of them yet. And so we had to go in and treat those cats and, keep them healthy. And Stephen and I both worked at that shelter. We were called responders, and so we were volunteers, or actually we were paid responders to come and help with those cats. And it was extremely overwhelming for me. I'd never seen anything like that in my career as a veterinarian, but it also I've kind of fell in love with shelter medicine by doing that. And so once that case finished, I kept helping that organization with other cases. And then that transitioned into a full-time job at a shelter in Memphis. And then after that shelter, I went to work for the Humane Society of Memphis. So I just kind of, for about 10 years, I worked in shelter medicine.
I was gonna ask about uh, this always makes Stephen nervous when I throw in questions. Uh, your emotions in a situation like that. I don't, I don't know if people ask vets enough about their emotions and how they deal with very difficult situations in practice. But hearing that, like, one of your initial trial by fires was a hoarding situation with 900 cats in a facility. What was how did you deal with that? How did you emotionally cope?
It, well, probably not very well, to be honest. I felt so compelled to go and help because not only were they needed the help so desperately because there's so many animals, but I'm also, I love dogs, but I'm a cat person. Cats are my heart animal. And
Absolutely.
and seeing that many cats, I honestly, I would drive to the shelter every morning and I would cry on my way home every day. And it was very emotional. And I mean, we were caring for those cats in a very appropriate manner, honestly, given the number. And they were loved by the whole staff. They were, I mean, given the challenges of having that many cats, and a lot of them were ill. And so, that was part of the emotional part, is that you saw just illness in these kitty cats, but you also got to see them getting better. And then we got to see them being adopted. And so the range of emotions was vast. And
Roller coaster of
yeah,
emotions.
for sure. And so that was really an extreme version of shelter medicine, and for somebody who had never done it before, it was very emotional for me, but not enough to scare me off. Some people would come in and they're like, I can't do this. And I would understand that. It's like, this is hard. But and then after a while, as shelter vets, they have to, just like honestly, anybody in a caregiving, industry, it's all hard. You learn how to compartmentalize those emotions, and you focus on, what are you doing here? I'm helping these animals. And so you kind of have to look beyond it.
Maybe it would be time to go back in time a little bit, Mike, and talk about 9/11, the World Trade Center, the work you did there, and some of the things that subsequently happened with all of that. I've never really heard you talk very much about it, actually.
Well, we do have a video on our YouTube channel, which you referenced earlier. And I just might point out that our purpose of our YouTube channel, which you can access from our website, urbancatleague.org, or just search Urban Cat League on YouTube, we wanted to fill in the blanks of things that we felt weren't out there. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of videos about trap, neuter, return, and rescue, and different ways to do it. But our few videos we feel were the things that we thought were missing. One of them is about our rescue after 9/11. It became clear after the World Trade Center was a square block, but every building in the perimeter, when the tower collapsed, blew out all the windows and damaged all of the buildings on all four sides. And people were evacuated, and many of them left their animals behind. And there was such a need for animal rescue that Gail Buchwald at the ASPCA called Urban Cat League, and because she knew we had traps, and we knew how to trap cats, because a lot of these cats were requiring a lengthy rescue. They couldn't just be picked up and put in a carrier because they were frightened, they were hiding, and the city didn't have the power or the hours that it takes to. Anybody who's trapped a cat, you're off the clock. It might happen in 5 minutes. It might happen in 5 days. It might be 5 weeks. You just have to, do it. So we got clearance to go down there, and we found an animal in every building we could get into. Most of them were padlocked. People left, closed the doors. And unfortunately, all the information from the city about who owned the building, we'd call people to try to get access. They say, oh my God, we haven't owned that building for 30 years. We sold her to this person, and so it changed it. The city records were very out of date as to who to access to get into the building. Anyway, we have some. Kath Newcomb had brought a camera with her. She's a documentary filmmaker, and she brought a camera with her on some of our rescues, and that short video is up on our YouTube channel. But what became clear with the Klieg lights on 24 hours a day during the rescue and what they called the pit, they were seeing all these animals roaming the streets. Well, they'd always been there. Oh, animals, mostly cats and rats. But they'd always been there, but they'd been hidden at night. Well, the feral cats, I guess, decided after the Klieg lights were on 24 hours a day, after a little while, well, we have to come out to eat, do whatever. So they were asking us to rescue what they thought were domestic cats, but they were actually feral cats that were living in that area. And we went inside different places. I think Stephen wanted me to mention, which I didn't put in the video, and I've never said publicly before, but 10 years later, I was diagnosed with a kind of lymphoma that you only get from toxic exposure. And the doctors they couldn't get a diagnosis for the longest time. They said, "Did you work in a chemical plant? Did you?" We can't figure out what kind of lymphoma you have because we're sure it's not large B cell follicular lymphoma. And then one day I was in the waiting room with a fireman and we were talking, and I said, I went back and I said, I was with the fireman out there. We have the same kind. They said, well, yeah, he was at 9/11. I said, I was at 9/11. We were doing animal rescue. So that was a slam dunk diagnosis. Anyway, I'm perfectly healthy now. Not perfectly healthy. It's uncurable, but I've had several treatments that keep me in remission. I'm in remission currently with this space age treatment called CAR T cell therapy, where they attach to each of your T cells, they attach an antigen which attacks the lymphoma, which is just insane. I could talk about that for an hour and I still wouldn't understand what I was explaining to you, but it's it's amazing what they can do with, fortunately for me that I'm one step ahead. My health has stayed one step ahead of what's available.
So we posed that question, and I'm going to read it from my phone. I'm going to read a bunch of them across our social media platforms. So Facebook, why do you love cats? They bring me peace and joy. They heal me. They are always there when you need them. They make me laugh at their silly antics. They are just the greatest things to me. Because I've always had cats since I could remember. They feel like therapy cats. I have no children, so they give me purpose. Because they give me unconditional love. Their love is unconditional. Because they're my family. I grew up with them. They bring me comfort and joy to the home. It's like having little humans in the house, but with immeasurable wisdom and intelligence. They are so clever in ways we can't really define. They remind us to be independent and carefree. They are wonderful and bring peace and joy to your soul. It just feels good. They are cute and funny, and they're my friends. I don't know a life without them. I always had them growing up. My mother adored cats. At this stage of life, they are my furry stress relievers. Their antics make me smile, and their purrs are a comfort. Because they love me even when I don't love myself. They're constant companions. Because I just do. All right. Because I can trust them. They do not judge or betray you. They just love you. Because they are smart, loyal, loving, great companions, cuddly, but also independent. And now we're going to switch to our other Facebook. I'm going to try. Okay. So, like our page. Okay. We got a bunch of comments. They're quiet. They mind their own business. They are selectively affectionate. Their purr is so calming. They're clean. They use the litter box. You don't have to walk them. The list goes on and on. I was on the verge and a starving, freezing kitten entered. Since acquiring a few more, my cat simply changed and saved my life.
Aw.
Cats are more loyal than dogs. No offense, dog people. They're potty trained on their own. They're super loving in a calm, sweet way. They don't take shit from anyone or anything.
Mhm.
They bring joy to my life. No clue, I just do. They are beautiful, creative, playful, loving, perfect. Nurse when I don't feel good. Such a wonderful and bright spirit. Because they are the best things since sliced bread. God made cats, then made people. He loves us, and he knew someday I would be born and love to need a cat. What's not to love? It just goes on and on and on. Growing up on a farm, we didn't have money for dolls, so kittens and cats were like our babies. We pushed them
Hmm.
around in old baby buggies like dolls. They were happy, and so were we. Okay.
Oh, that's so cute.
Because they unapologetically do whatever the F they want.
Yes, they do.
Nothing, we because we understand each other. It just the response was absolutely astounding. Just I'll read just a couple more from our threads. So please follow us on threads. Okay. There is no why. You just must love them. You must. Okay. Well, as the daughter of a veterinarian, my dad saw a special connection between me and the cats at his clinic. I received so much love and acceptance from cats, acceptance I never got from people. I currently have 6 we took off the streets, and my nickname is Cat. Just, so I think that gives you a good kind of taste.
Are there some things you can just tell our listeners the basic things that they should do to help save the life of a very young kitten who is not able to eat on their own? Let's put it out as that.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, if you're interested in fostering neonatal kittens, first of all, I say I believe everybody can learn how to do it. Like, I do not think you need to be an expert. You don't need to. People ask me like, "What do you need to go to school for to care for kittens?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we need everybody who is willing to care for kittens to give this a shot." So, even if you have no experience, you can learn. What we want people to know is if you have your first newborn kitten, I mean, one thing is, like I was talking about, the thermoregulation is really big. So every kitten needs a heat source if they're under a month old. The body temperature is having the right body temperature is essential for all aspects of like organ function and the ability for this kitten to succeed. There's a lot of interesting studies looking at kind of environmental temperature and the like health of the kitten and the survival rates of the kitten. So having something like a microwavable heat pad, or even if you have, a heat pad that you use at home, just make sure that it's on like a nice like low to medium with a blanket over it, but that they have a place they can go to be warm, and that they have choice. So even a newborn can choose to wiggle towards this side or that side. So, keep them contained in a bin or a box or a carrier, give them a heat pad on half of that. That's like gentle heat they can move towards and away from. You want to know what age they are so you can determine their feeding schedule. And then during their feedings, the main things to know is, at each feeding, you're going to help them go to the bathroom if they're an orphan. So you will stimulate them with a tissue that helps them just, eliminate waste. And that's something that mom does typically for them. So if you have a mom cat, fantastic, because she does that part. Um, but if you don't, then you're going to be doing that. And if you
Wet
have an
tissue or
orphan,
dry tissue?
dry tissue. Anytime somebody says, I use a wet tissue, I'm like, well, that's not very absorbent. You wouldn't like necessarily like mop up liquid with a wet tissue, right? So they're peeing into this tissue, so we're just gonna like gently stimulate them until they're done peeing. They'll pee every feeding, and they'll poop like once or twice a day, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then we're going to feed them. So what you need to know about that is, let's see, the very fast version is kittens have specific nutritional needs. So you got to feed them kitten formula. Please don't try to feed them something out of your refrigerator. I promise you that's going to go really poorly because their bodies are designed with specific nutritional needs. So there is an abundance of kitten formulas available at local stores. So grab yourself a kitten formula. You're going to put it in the kitten bottle. I will tell you one tip that I have is like the nipples that come on the bottles from the store are as good as garbage. Throw them away and get yourself like a nipple that is like they sell like aftermarket nipples. One that I really like is called the Miracle Nipple, and it has a hole in it already. So get yourself one of those. That's like if someone was willing to spend $10 on their fostering journey, that's the one thing I would tell them to get, just because when you're feeding a kitten, at first they don't know what you're doing, right? Like you're putting food into their mouth, and just like you don't put like liquid into the mouth of an unconscious person or someone who doesn't know what you're doing. When you're putting liquid into a kitten's mouth, there's a high risk that they might inhale that or aspirate that. So the Miracle Nipple or any of those types of like aftermarket nipples that have the little hole in the end of it, those are going to be a lot safer than you cutting these like terrible nipples yourself. Oh, sorry. It's my dog's medication alarm. So, yeah, let's see, what else do I want to share? Yeah, so when you're feeding your kitten, sometimes I think it can appear easier to people than the first time they try it, and they go, oh my gosh, you make it look so easy to bottle feed, and it's actually really hard. But it's not hard. It's just something that you have to kind of like build muscle memory around, and every kitten is an individual. So you're going to look at it like an art form, that you are like making art with this kitten, and you're going to figure out like, what does this dance look like between me and you? Every kitten's a little different. But hold your bottle in your dominant hand, hold the kitten in your non-dominant hand. And I mean, it's really hard to say without like just showing you, but I have a lot of resources to teach you the way to oh, nice. Yeah, I have a lot of resources to show you kind of like postures and hand positions. If you go to my website or on my YouTube, I have a lot that can show kind of like correct postures and hand positions for feeding kittens. But that's like a very, very quick. It's hard to do without like having a kitten.
You don't have a kitten handy, Hannah?
The big X factor or unknown factor with this type of tree climbing is I set my rope or my anchor remotely. Okay, so I'm setting this rope way up in the tree over a limb that I cannot examine all the way around it. Okay. Right. So there is, through experience and kind of getting to know different tree species, you get to have some confidence in different size limbs for different trees and how much leverage you're going to be imparting on the whole structure. But that is always an X factor, that initial anchor that I'm going to commit to putting my life on as I ascend the rope. Okay. Yeah. But then and that comes through just inspecting the tree and experience to gain that confidence. But once you get up there, then there are different things you can do. And that's the fun, more of the fun part of the tree climbing. Climbing the rope is just climbing the rope, but getting yourself into these positions out on the twigs and things like that, that's where the problem solving comes into play, and distributing your weight amongst a bunch of small branches and things like that. But if that's what I'm doing, essentially, you nailed it. Via that device, I'm putting leverage on it, and usually I'll have another backup aligned somewhere else to distribute my weight.
So if the anchor fails, you have something to keep you from falling?
Not on that initial ascent, oftentimes. Well, there are ways to make sure if that anchor fails, then another one beneath it could catch me, which is ideal. But right. sometimes that's not the case. That initial ascent anchor, the way I guess gain more confidence in it is before I commit to ascending up 100 feet or whatever, while I'm on the ground, I will put my system on, climb just a foot or 2 feet, and then jump and bounce all my weight onto my device, and it'll shock load that anchor, and I'll just listen for anything. And that'll give me the confidence that, hey, this is a bomber anchor and I'm good to climb.
A bomber.
Has there ever been a tree? I'm assuming you get the call, you answer it the way you did, and thank you for using the phone prop, by the way.
Yes.
Well done. Has there ever been, you show up at the scene, has there ever been a tree that you just really had a lot of doubts about or couldn't climb? And what happens?
Absolutely. Have been several times where there are trees that I couldn't climb, or I refuse to climb, or decide that's not in my best interest to climb. And hopefully there's a larger tree nearby that I could climb. And I think maybe, Stephen, the video that you first saw me on,
Yes.
what was one of those instances where I had a tree, a very large oak tree nearby, that I thought, okay, I can get above this cat in this tree, high enough above it, the cat's in this little tree, to where I can make a nice pendulum. The angle's not too steep, to where if this little tree breaks out, I'm not going to crash hard. I'm going to have a good weight distribution. So one option is to climb a nearby tree. If there isn't a nearby tree, then you take two trees that are distant, climb both of them, and set a rope in between them.
Wow.
It's called a high line. So now I have this long high line that I can get above the tree that the cat's in and descend down on top of it. That's very uncommon. And then the third case is to set up an elevator. And I have a video where I actually have two videos of an elevator. And it pretty much consists of getting a line, a throw line, not a rope, into the tree above the cat. It has to be above the cat, and you have to get the line to take a path that is next to the cat. And that takes some work, threading the rope or the line through the tree. And then you attach a basket. Usually I recommend putting a blanket that the cat is familiar with the smell in this basket or milk crate, and a can of something stinky and delicious. And then you hoist that up. You hoist that up, and it has to be to where the cat can step right into it. The less amount of effort the cat needs to get to the basket and into the basket, the better. So that's what I've done in cases where you've described, where I couldn't climb the tree. There were no other options. You can set up an elevator, and it works. If the elevator has worked every single time I've tried it.
Does Wild East Brewery ever do tours?
I think they do. I know they have events. I know they have lots of events like music nights and puzzle nights and different things. I think they have tours. I'm not sure.
Okay. So these cats live there full time.
Absolutely. This is their home. This is their home.
And they generally do their work at night. The employees leave and they're like, all right, guys, we'll see you in the morning. The place is all yours.
Yeah,
kind of like that.
Exactly. That's it. And of course, as I said, usually the employers fall in love with the cats and they end up having all these little cat nookie holes and hidey holes and cat beds and places. And, the cats do real well and get spoiled.
I have heard of studies that having cats in a workplace does wonders for the employees, even taking out the fact that these cats are helping with the rat problem. And I want to ask about the rat problem in a minute. For people, believe it or not, we have an audience outside of New York. So I want to discuss that in a minute. But I have heard of studies that just having cats at your place of work does wonders for the employees, like mental health and morale.
Yeah.
So, even though they're also helping, they have a job to do. Just hearing that these employees are just loving the cats and fall in love with them, and two of them took them home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this
You know,
happens all the time. I'll be honest, Dan, that was unexpected. When I went into this, my main goals were I want to pull cats from the shelter. This gives another outlet for certain cats that are not family cats. I want to pull those cats, and I want to get rid of as much rat poison. Let's get a non-toxic environment here. So those were my goals. It was the employers who came back to me and talked to me about the employee morale, how people look forward to coming into work because of the cats. I really hadn't anticipated that part of it.
and how many
Amazing.
cats have you gotten jobs for
About 60 now.
since
And
2019?
Yeah, it was December 2019, yeah.
Are you concerned that some of them might unionize?
Well, actually, they did. Yeah,
The cats, not the people.
they insisted on belonging to the New York City Brewers Guild. They wanted representation. So the Brewers Guild, Hard Hat Cats is a member of the Brewers Guild. I approached the president and I said, the cats are pushing. They want representation. They're working. All
That's great.
their job's 24/7. You only do 8 hours, but the job, the cats are there all day, right? So they're not happy at all that they don't have representation. So the Brewers love that. So yeah, they're part of the Brewers Guild.
That's
Sheila,
adorable.
Sheila, you're the best. You've just become one of my favorite guests we've had on the show. Well done. Thank you very much.
Well,
60
you
cats.
reminded me. It's so rich in terms of, what comes up. I know I just don't think of a million things when we get
and
off
you know,
there.
Can you go into the ingredients and like what goes into Maruva's food and what makes
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
better? Like in comparison to the others, what goes
Well,
into the science of coming up with these formulas?
yeah, so we absolutely will never trash talk another brand. We don't like to compare ourselves in the sense of like us versus Fancy Feast, us versus Tiki Cat, us versus, all these different brands. Because each brand is obviously offering something, otherwise they wouldn't be on the shelf. You know,
Right.
but as far as Waruba goes and Waruba standards, I know that sounded like a very much like a I'm staying square. Um, but it's not. It's more like Waruba is founded in what you see is what you get. That's kind of our philosophy on it. So we do not like the mystery mush. And it took us, I think, almost 12, no, not 12, 15 years, I think is what the quote is, 15 years to come out with a pate because we could not figure out how to not make it that mystery mush. But we always start with fresh ingredients, obviously. Who wouldn't start with fresh ingredients? But we're GMO free, grass fed, free range, hormone free, antibiotic free ingredients. And then we process them in a facility like with the BRC, which is now considered something else. I don't know what it's called now, but that gold standard of human food processing, we're held to that standard. So we have to have the quality ingredients to even enter that facility.
Got it.
And then once they're being processed, it's not just like a chain of like food coming in. Okay, we're doing tilapia. Okay, we're doing chicken. Okay, we're doing beef. What we're doing in our factories and manufacturing facilities is we are taking that one specific protein. So let's say it's chicken. It's the easiest one. And that chicken is going from a plucked and the feet are gone and the beak is gone and everything. And now you just have your meat and your bones. And then professional, we call them filleters for fish, but I can't remember what the term is. Professionals literally take that apart. They hand break it down. So then you're pulling that white, delicious breast meat into one can. Then you're pulling that dark meat into another brand of ours. And then you're using that bone, that the carcass that's left over, it's going across the street to a non-human food facility because it's a carcass now, and then it's being made into bone broth that is then transferred back over into that original manufacturing facility to then be used as a human quality bone broth. And then they are formulated together with their vitamin packs to make sure they're a complete diet. And then they're sealed and cooked, and that's it. There's nothing mysterious about our food. And that's kind of why I'm very passionate about Weruva and why I love talking about it. Like if we were at a bar, I'd be like, what do you think your cat? Tell me about it. You know?
Icebreaker.
It's yeah, and like I'm married and my husband's like, dear God, like can you just stop talking to people about their cats? Like
Never.
never.
It's been a while. It's been a few months since we've checked in with you
Yep.
on your breast cancer journey. So can you give us an update on where you are now? It's May 24th, so it's almost a year.
Well, July 3rd last year was the actual diagnosis. So I had the mammogram in May, sonogram in June, sonogram and biopsy in June, and then the diagnosis was July 3rd. So yeah, we're coming up on a year.
Wow.
I know. But no, actually everything is going really, really well. I mean, I'm still wearing a wig today, but Dan and I were chatting before. My hair is growing back. These are my eyebrows. They have started to come back, thank God. That was,
Hey,
I was honestly
awesome.
more, I more wanted the eyebrows to come back than the head hair, because the head hair I can throw a wig on, you know? You can't throw a wig on your eyebrows. You can draw them in, but that takes so much time. But anyway, yeah, so the hair is coming back. It's doing its thing. I'm waiting patiently. I'm curious to see what sort of color it's going to be when it comes back in. So that remains to be seen. But no, things are going well. I finished. I don't remember where we were when where I was at the last time we chatted. But I
It was
finished
just
chemotherapy.
you were having your. I think you were just about to do your last chemo.
Okay, so I finished chemo in the end of February, and then I had radiation for 3 weeks. That was throughout March into the beginning of April. Well, started in mid-March into the beginning of April, and then the radiation is over. But I'm still having immunotherapy, and that goes on through the end of the year. That's once every 3 weeks. It's the same schedule that I was on for the chemo. Actually, this had started. I was doing this with chemo, so I was doing 4 drugs at a time, 4 infusions. Now I'm down. Now I'm doing 2 infusions. So it's just the chemo drugs have been eliminated from my my treatment. And this is really a walk in the park. This is like
You still have to go. You have to go somewhere for
yeah,
this
yeah.
immunotherapy and get it injected into you.
I have a port. My port is still there. So I had this, you can see it in the video, but I had a
Okay.
port, and that's what I got all my infusions with from the beginning. So this has been there since beginning of end of September, beginning of October, and this will be there until the end of the year after my immunotherapy is done. But yeah, that's everything really at this point is going very well. I am physically able to. I'm starting to get myself back out there and do physical exercise again. I'm doing runs. So no, at this point everything is going, really well, to be honest. I have, when you're dealing with cancer and with the treatments, really sometimes the treatments are harder than the cancer. They're harsher on your body than the cancer. So the chemo and the immunotherapies and the radiation all have a way of having their own impact on your body. So one of the big things that you have to keep an eye out for is heart disease, is making sure that you're not going into heart failure, to be honest, because it can have that impact on your heart. So I've had several echocardiograms the way that they test that is they do an echo before you start treatment, during treatment, and then after. So I did all 3 of those. When I finished up the test after the treatment, they did notice some of my numbers had decreased. So I went a couple weeks later, went for another echo. Everything kind of stayed the same, but now I'm on like this regular monitoring of my heart to make sure that it doesn't go below a certain function. If it goes below a certain function, then I'm considered to be in congestive heart failure, and we don't want that to happen. So, so that's
Heck no.
No, so that's something you keep an eye out for. I did recently go for a sonogram and an updated mammogram, and they noticed some calcifications in the same breast where I had the cancer. So we're going to do a biopsy on those. Those can be natural; they can just be caused by age, but they can also be a precursor to cancer. And considering my history, they're being overly overly cautious. Yeah. The term, and I've used this term a couple of times. The term that the radiologist used after when she was giving me the overview of the results of the mammogram, she said we are specifically making mountains out of molehills. So that's what I'm sorry. I have like fur all over my face from the 5 minutes that she was in my lap. But
Best part
yeah.
of having a cat.
Yeah. So I have to go in for another biopsy for that. That's actually going to be this week. It's really at this point, it's just constant. It's monitoring. It's being aware of, me being aware of everything that's going on in my body and communicating with my doctors if something comes up. That's really where it's at right now.
And now I'm going to grab my phone. So we have the screenshot. And I'm going to read some of your responses and react to them. So first one, and thank you, by the way, everyone. We went to PetSmart to buy fish food, saw Theo, and asked to meet him. They said we were the first people that he let hold him. Took home fish food and a cat. He's the best boy.
Aw.
I was a toddler. Not sure how he got her, but I named her Baloney because I love baloney.
Oh, I love that name. I love that name. That's great.
Emmett. He was adopted as a kitten, and he was my best friend until he passed away at age 29. I miss him so very much.
Oh my gosh, 29. That's incredible. My Monday was about 20, and she was with me through so many things. So many life changes and moves, and I can only imagine a 29-year-old cat. I mean, that's
29.
That cat's seen
That's
some
incredible.
things. What was the name of the
Emmett,
29-year-old cat? Was it Emma?
Emmett.
Emmett.
Emmett. Emmett. So my very first ever cat as a kid, my parents went and got her for me and swapped her for a box of plums. Her name was Holly. Now, some shelters charge a fee of money. Some people, some fruit. She was a ginger and white. I don't think we had any pictures of her, as this was the late 90s. She was a lovely girl.
Aww.
So hope those plums were good. I adopted Chloe in the summer of 2020. She was 3 years old and done mothering her 3 kittens and with a foster parent. There was a family meeting a day before, and they decided to go with the kitten instead of an adult cat. I met her and loved her instantly. Took her home that day, and she's been the sweetest and friendliest cat ever. She was underweight and not very fluffy, but after being with me for a couple of weeks, she gained weight and a very healthy coat. So that's Chloe. 1971.
Oh, goodness.
Before our time. A young male wandered into our yard and stayed for 18 years. We named him Casey, Casey, /KC, as in the Sunshine Band, /Kitty Cat. So this cat was named KC, Kitty Cat. He was a great cat and the first of 6. We've had at least one cat in the house for the past 55 years. Wow.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I was in my early 30s. I had a boyfriend I had been with for about a year. I was totally sick of him, the boyfriend. One day he brought me a little gray tabby cat, Molly. I had never had a cat before, but I liked Molly a lot. She was about a year old. A couple of weeks later, he ended a pitiful relationship with us and dumped me. I liked that cat a lot better than I liked him. I have since had 8 more cats and have adored them all. We don't blame you one bit.
Not one single bit.
My dad found 2 abandoned kittens that needed bottle feeding 37 years ago. They lived around 12 years. Okay.
Good for Dad.
Good for Dad. I had adopted an 8-year-old black cat named Pebbles from SPCA after my dad passed away for my sister and I. Pebbles was always my girl. She was with me through thick and thin. She was my soulmate. She changed my life. She lived to be 24. I love and miss her to this day. Let's see. Cricket. He was a kitten from the neighbor's cat.
Cricket?
This Cricket.
Cricket.
And this one, her name was Pooh Bear because she was playing with a small little Pooh. I received her from my sister. She was a complete joy.
Oh, I love the names. That's like, I think one of my favorite things is hearing the names that people come up with for cats. It's really, it's all over the map, and it's just beautiful. It's hysterical and beautiful.
Really are. There's so many of these responses. Let's see what else. We had several, here's a very long story. We had several cats growing up. One of my favorite cats was my Daisy, who my mom found in a newspaper ad for puppies. The puppies were for sale, but it said free cat on the bottom. We took her in because we were having a mouse problem, and her first night with us, she caught a mouse. She ended up living to be 15, with 13 of those years with us.
Got a mic in the break room, cardboard box, front row seat. Whiskers twitch, we tune the dial, tiny paws on the beat. Beans in a paper cup, names on a paper list. Every stray got a story, and every scratch means this. Come on in, take a listen, hear that putter in the air. They've been waiting all week to tell you what they see there. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Yeah, the Shelter Cats Podcast. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Hurry it up, hurry it up. They got paws on the answer and a meow that won't quit. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Hurry it up, hurry it up. Mitten said the mailman's late. Tuxedo says the food's too plain. Orange cat hit the high note, then did it all again. Stray cat story soft and sharp. Quiet laughs in the cage row. Every little rescue moment, gotta swing the whole block knows. Come on in, take a listen, hear that purr in the air. They've been waiting all week to tell you what they see there. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Yeah, the Shelter Cats Podcast. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Hurry up, hurry up. They got paws on the answer and a meow that won't quit. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Hurry it up, hurry it up. One day home, one day free, one day curled in your lap. Till then they hold that corner and they run this little show like that. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Yeah, the Shelter Cats Podcast. It's the Shelter Cats Podcast. Hurry it up, hurry it up. They got paws